Hey, this is Dr. Fred. This is Chiropractic Lifestyle Revolution. And man, I am thrilled because why do we do this? We have amazing leaders, people with amazing spirits, philosophically based, that are out there making a difference in the profession and the world. And man, Dr. Neil Cohen, you've done so much, man, and you continually contribute and you give and give and give. And you don't live the principle, brother. You are the principle. And now
Mm,
man, the purpose in life changes. And so I would love for people to know who you are, even though they probably do know your story, and feel your conviction come through your words and your heart.
awesome, my friend. Thank you so much, Dr. Fred, for having me on your podcast. It's an honor. And hopefully, I can share something that will be instructive to somebody out there. But basically, my story is a real simple one. I grew up in subsidized housing in New York City. We weren't rich, but I didn't know it. I thought we were rich, and I had my bed, my room, my friends, and my school, and things were great. And then my parents picked up when I was 14 years old and moved to South Florida. And South Florida became my new home. That was back in 1972. Started high school. After high school, of course, I did a lot of jobs. One of the jobs that was really cool was that I used to customize cars, and I learned a lot about how to do work that meant something and how to be proud of the thing that you produced. And I think that was part of what set me off to be a chiropractor that wanted to make an excellent adjustment. So I learned excellence when I was a young person. And then at the same time, I was customizing cars. I was a DJ, and it was
No
a
kidding.
bar that 3 days they did disco, 3 days they did rock and roll. And so it was really cool. So I got to meet a lot of really cool people, party, have a great time. And then that's how I met my wife. At the time, she came up to request a song, and I looked at her and we started talking. And before you know it, we were getting along great. And I found out she was going to a chiropractor. And I was
Hey,
like,
did you get so involved in the conversation you forgot to play the songs you wanted?
no, I definitely played it. I definitely played Earth, Wind, and
Yeah, three
Fire.
times. Oh, nice.
Yeah, Reasons, baby. She wanted Reasons, and I played that. So anyway, she's going to the chiropractor. She's got these headaches. She's complaining about all the time, and meanwhile, it's bothering me because she's got these headaches all the time. And I say, "What are you going to this chiropractor for? What's he doing for you? You always have these headaches you're complaining about." She said, "Well, why don't you just come with me and you can talk to him?" So at the time, I had been to 2 years of college, did not know what I wanted to do. And one of my non negotiables is I did not want to do something that I was going to be unhappy with. And that's one of the reasons I started customizing cars and worked as a DJ. I was really just having a great time, but I always knew that I wanted to help people, but I just had not found my vocation. Lo and behold, we go to the chiropractor. I go there basically to kind of argue with him about why she's going. And he's the most charming and disarming person I have ever met. I mean, just like all chiropractors, they know how to build relationships, they know how to talk to people. And so he started looking at me and saying, I really love Randy. At the time, my girlfriend, he says, I'd really like to take care of you. And he said the magic word, I'll do it for free. So fantastic. So he takes x-rays of me. He gives me my first adjustment. But before he did that, he pointed out and he told me I had something called a military neck, which we now know I had lost my cervical curve. And he never knew this, but my entire life I had gotten stiff necks. I had gotten tonsillitis. I had never been to a chiropractor. And he makes this adjustment on me. He makes this cervical adjustment. And literally, it changed the trajectory of my life. I got up from that table, and I know not everyone has this experience, but I got up from that table and I said to him, "Where have they been keeping this stuff? This is amazing." So I had been to 2 years of college. As I mentioned, I did not know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something that was going to affect humanity. And now I said, okay, now I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a chiropractor. Didn't know a thing about it. Didn't know about the principle. All I knew was he adjusted my neck and my life felt different, and I wanted that. So I choose a school based on geographical location, which is a bad idea. But at that time, God, he had me by the collar and he was directing my life. And it was a beautiful thing because at the time I went to Life College, and this is back in 1983. This is the heyday of Dr. Sid Williams. I mean, he was at his peak as a leader in this profession. And I'll tell you the God's honest truth. When I got to Life College, he scared the bejeebers out of me because he had such command over people. He was so charismatic that I felt like, I don't know about this guy. Is he for real or is he not for real? I mean, you got to understand, this is the early 80s. We had just come out of Guyana, Jim Jones, drink the Kool-Aid. I don't know who this guy is, but he's like got a lot of people surrounding him. And I come to find out that this man had such a deep appreciation for chiropractic. He wanted to promote chiropractic in such a way that the world could experience living in a subluxated life. And over time, as I was at the college, I started to realize that, and I really began to love this guy. And he became my mentor from afar. Not that we were close friends, but I listened to every word that he said. And he talked about lasting purpose, giving, loving, and serving out of your own abundance without any expectation of return. I thought that that was a marvelous way to live your life, the lasting purpose mindset. He had dynamic essentials. I started going to DE 1980, 83, 84 was my first DE at the Waverly Hotel. 3,000 people there, all big shots. Everybody seemed to be having a great time. And I was this student. I said, I want some of this. So I still didn't know the principle. I didn't know the principle. I was learning what it was, but I didn't know it. I didn't own it. And then my wife got pregnant with our first child. We had my son 38 years ago while I was at Life College. And that was decision-making time. How do we have our baby? What do we do after our baby is born? And so we started to learn about how profound subluxation really was, especially during the birth process. So we decided we're going to have a baby naturally. We want to make sure he has no subluxation, not going to get any shots, not going to get any medicine, nothing like that. That was being a maverick, not only in my family, but back in those days. You're talking 1984, 1985. And so we decided to live that chiropractic lifestyle. It was at that time.
I started going to DE in 88. I mean, it's like you still didn't know the principle. It's like you're going to get the principle anywhere, man. I mean, that was it, right? Sigafus was there, Jimmy Gregg, John Hoffman, all those old guys that, kind of paved the road.
Yeah, I got to hear Grosso, I got to hear Barge. All the greats were there, and it was amazing. And of course, at the time, you didn't know they were the greats, but they were the greats. Bob Satilli, amazing. Just some incredible speakers there. Tom Pastersky, who practiced down here in South Florida. I got to know him personally. But anyway,
I still credit my philosophy to those days.
Yes.
I mean, I went for 10 years, didn't miss one, 3 or 4 times a year, was every 3 months. Right. Didn't miss one for 10 years. I mean, I credit everything that I think and believe and live in chiropractic to those days. And a lot of the leaders today, like yourself, came from those DE days. Absolutely. We were the young punks back then, and now it's like, shit, man, I'm the old guy. It's like looking at the old guys now. I'm that old guy.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about that because in my spirit I feel young, but
absolutely.
I can't go to an event and not say I think I'm the oldest guy in this event. Where's Cliff Hardick? I need Cliff Hardick, Yeah. But anyway, DE was something that Dr. Sid really helped me to understand that the principle transcends chiropractic. The principle is about doing the right thing. And if we're doing the right thing, that's what innate does. Innate does whether you have cancer or whether you're cancer free. Innate is always going to do the right thing. He talked about the friend within and the innate principle. And it was something that I bought hook, line, and sinker. And I was quite blessed because even when I got out of school, I knew that I loved chiropractic, but I couldn't articulate it in the way that I wanted to. I would marvel at the DE speakers, especially guys like Sigafus, who could stand up on that stage and just talk for hours about how this principle affected humanity and how children that were living within miles of the venue were dying because we weren't going out there and telling the story, and how we had to stand on a box in the middle of Times Square, blow a trumpet, and really bring people to us so we can tell them about chiropractic. It was inspirational to me, and I thought to myself, "Oh my goodness, this how could I just want to do this? How could I do this? Oh, this will never be me." I mean, that was the mindset that I had, and lo and behold, after many years of practice and really living the principle, we had 3 children. 2 of them became chiropractors. Never been vaccinated, never been drugged. We always lived the chiropractic lifestyle. We eat, drink, and sleep chiropractic. Everybody deserves chiropractic. We gave the offer to as many as we could, and then after many years in successful practice, I got the calling from Dr. Cordero to come up to Sherman College, and this
So
was
how did
in
you know him, and how did he know you?
right. So he practiced also in South Florida. So we were in the same circle of chiropractors. South Florida has a really cohesive group that they call Band of Brothers, and that was started years ago. And it's really a principled group where we would meet every week. But even before that, we had something that we called Saturday Night Live, which was really a bunch of DE guys that were down here. You had Joe Accurso and Tom Pasursky and BJ Harmon and Sal Martingano and all these Bobby Braille. He would do a Saturday Night Live in his office in Cocoa Beach or Rockledge, Florida. We would travel up there, so there was a great group down here, and that's how I knew Dr. Cordero. Is he graduated after me, but he was part of that group as well, and he was super
Oh, and by the
successful.
way, let me interrupt you a sec. You got a
Sure.
lot of momentum. For those people that don't know any of those names, these are ride or die chiropractic people. I mean, it's old school philosophy. You know, these are people that they weren't worried about customer service in chiropractic. You know, they weren't being the doctor that well, I don't want to say that because it'll offend them, right? I mean, they were people that told the truth, and they told it to a boatload of people, and they live the principle. So, like those
Yeah,
names that you just laid down, I mean, half of them I don't even know are still alive.
yeah.
But they paved the principal road that we drive on.
Absolutely, absolutely. We stand under the shade from a tree that they planted for sure. And and
Absolutely.
and and I'll tell you this, and I failed to mention Reggie Gold, but when I was in practice, I got turned on to Reggie Gold. I didn't know of Reggie Gold. I was in that sort of life culture, and then of course you had the Sherman culture, and I understand today why they were separate from one another. But back then, I just didn't even know of a Sherman culture. I was with life, but in 1993, I was in practice about 6 months. I got to hire my first associate, and his name was Dr. David Yachter. And Dr. David Yachter, he went on to become he's ultra successful. But when he worked for me, he turned me on to Reggie Gold, and we would listen to this. Just talking early '90s, we would listen to cassette tapes in my car on the way to the gym of Reggie Gold, and he was so logical. The way he articulated chiropractic was so beautiful. I wanted more of Reggie Gold. So I got my hands on a bunch of Reggie stuff, and I started learning about him, and he became my mentor. And that's where my communication skills got really good. I understood the chemistry of life. I helped people to understand that chiropractic, a life without chiropractic is a life that does not lead to anything that you really want. And we were able
Well,
to
let
share.
me interrupt you again real
Sure.
quick, because when you look at somebody like Reggie and all these guys that have big practices, the reason, and I say this all the time, they knew how to communicate chiropractic in a simple way.
Right.
It was simple. Like, I mean, they could get up with their bullhorn and go on for hours, but to sit there and explain in paragraphs and educate, educate, educate. I mean, these guys just spoke to your heart, and they would speak in bullets. They had the one-liners that you just couldn't argue with it, that really didn't require a response. It required action, which is commit to chiropractic for the rest of your life, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's why it's
And,
attractive and people get it when it's simple.
right. And Reggie was amazing. And what I heard from out of his mouth for the very first time, and this was a bit antithetical to what I learned at Life College, because you got to realize, and this is still true today, chiropractic is still developing. It's still developing. We have not put out a strategy that really supports what we actually do. We have parts of our profession that understand and support the principle, but then we have larger parts of the profession that know nothing about chiropractic. Reggie understood chiropractic to the level where he knew how to speak to a patient and let them know that he was not taking care of anything other than their subluxations. If they would say, well, when am I going to get better? He'd say, how the hell do I know? He gave the right answer because, chiropractic has morphed. It's morphed into this semi-therapeutic way of dealing with musculoskeletal aches and pains. And in its purest form, chiropractic is not about even health. It's about life. It's about expressing life at the highest level. It's about allowing the body to heal itself when the interference is removed. What that looks like in each individual, we really don't know. Everybody's
We're not
different.
smart enough. You're not smarter than an ape. And here's the thing, and I say this, I teach this in my group all the time and on podcasts like this. It's like the healthcare system and the title doctor conditioned us to people have a health problem. What do they do in healthcare? They have a health problem, they go to a doctor and they quit. That's not chiropractic.
Right,
Chiropractic's a lifestyle. So what you're describing is you're either living subluxated or you're living unsubluxated. That's a lifestyle. It doesn't
right,
matter what the health problem is. I mean, they have a health problem, but your goal isn't to solve a health problem. Your goal is to release the healing energy that God put inside us. And then I always ask people, is there any disease that God can't heal? And what's the answer? None. Well, then freaking take away the subluxation. Now, I know there's a bunch of functional medicine. Well, we live in a toxic world and they need that. Dude, I get it. That's why our line is the spinal nervous system is the foundation of health and life of the body, man. It's like your GMO, non-GMO foods ain't going to change that cervical kyphosis. You need freaking energy.
right. Amen, amen. And Reggie, he was amazing when he would do his doctor's report before he started any individual patient. He would do a complete doctor's report so he can get their buy-in. And it was interesting. He did not do it with the patient. He did it only with the entire family. So if you didn't bring your whole family in, he said, forget it. Go back and get your family and bring them in. And here's what he would say at the end: if I can correct all your subluxations, all of them, and a year from now you don't feel any better, should I then go ahead and put your subluxations back where they were? I mean, that was a great question to me because obviously it's rhetorical and the answer is no. But he really took them to the level of understanding that they were there for subluxation correction and nothing else. If they got better, and we know that 90% of our patients get better if we just, if we're not even great chiropractors, 90% get better. That was not where he lived. He lived in the space of let's live in an unsubluxated world. Let's have pilots that don't have subluxations, barbers that don't have subluxations, politicians that don't have subluxations. And so he thought at this level that I think today chiropractors don't even think about. So we live in a different world. And you mentioned something very interesting too, because I think that even chiropractors, unless you have been generationally uh, um, into the philosophy of chiropractic, and I'm saying 2 or 3 generations, you have been raised with programming that's outside in. Everybody's raised with outside in programming. And so even chiropractors have to displace the outside in programming to understand the power of chiropractic. And unless we do that, and Dr. Sid used to say this all the time, when you're a young chiropractor, you're going to run from the chiropractic table to the medicine chest, from the medicine chest to the chiropractic table, because you're confused. And what you have to understand, and we know there's a time and place for those things, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're living free from nerve interference, because that in itself has a direct effect on society.
Absolutely, man. And here's another thing we always say that you're talking about. And I tell people, if you're trying to build a practice, you may struggle, or you can even build a good business. But when you're trying to change humanity, practice is easy. You're going to go way beyond a practice. Like, you want to build a practice, focus on changing humanity.
Amen. And we got to get our patients on that same mission. I think
Oh,
if we,
absolutely.
if we keep our patients focused on our mission, and it's a very philanthropic mission. I mean, you want to make more money, you see more people. That's what I say. And if we are focusing on just the transaction, we lose the benefit of the transformation. And really, chiropractic is in the business of transformation. But what's happened is, because it's also a business, and people think that the business side has to be heavier, we think about the transaction, but it's not, because it's transformational. Because I'll tell you this, as a chiropractor, when I was adjusting, I got as much out of that adjustment being delivered as I did as that patient did from the delivery of that adjustment.
Well,
So
that's the big idea, right? That's what BJ talks about. Change the consciousness of the person, you shift the consciousness of the universe. And that starts with you.
That's right.
Like,
That's
you've
right.
already shifted it before you even adjusted them. That's
Yes.
the adjustment with the extra something, right?
Right. Right. For sure. For sure.
So now we got a whole nice rant on the philosophy. I almost think, I don't want to deflate that at all, but then you were invited by Ed to go to Sherman. So tell us about that.
So that was an interesting moment in my life. 2014, I've been practicing, 28 years. I'm you know, I'm doing well. I'm thinking about the next stage of retirement, what's going to happen here, and I get this phone call, and it was supernatural what had happened, because I realized there had been certain things that had led up to that moment, where I was placed in some leadership roles that I never asked for, but I accepted those roles. You learn as a leader that you say yes. That's what you do. You say yes. And I started to get involved politically with chiropractic. I was on a couple of boards. I was really starting to see it from a different perspective, and how it was changing, and it wasn't really changing from the better, especially from the institutional perspective. There were schools that were once, when I was young, very, very good, and now they've shifted into an allopathic or a therapeutic, is probably a more proper word, mindset. And I felt like this was a travesty, because chiropractic has changed my life. I wanted to perpetuate. I don't want it to get lost in the shuffle among a million other things. Chiropractic, separate and distinct. We need masters within this profession. We need communicators within this profession. And so I'm in the midst of that. And then Ed calls me up one day and he said, I've been praying, and there's this position open at Sherman College for president, and God is asking me to step up to do it. And immediately the thought I had was, and this was the first thought that came to me, and I remember this very, very clearly. I was sitting out in front of my house on my 69 GTO on my cell phone, and he said this to me, and I said, Ed, it's going to be historical. I don't even know where that came from.
First of
It's
all,
going to
that's amazing. But what else is amazing is you were sitting in a 69 GTO. That's a badass car. That is
it
an old
was.
muscle car.
Yeah.
That's a badass car.
It is. But don't miss this. Don't miss this. It was a innate thought that it would be historical. And
Yeah.
little did I know that if we look at it even today, what happened in that college over the tenure of Ed Cordero and Neil Cohen was historical. And I don't say that from a selfish perspective. I say that
Oh,
that
you
it
totally
wasn't,
transformed that college.
but it was a team effort. It was a
Oh
team
yeah,
effort. It wasn't just Ed. It wasn't just Neil. It wasn't just
right.
Ed and Neil. It was the team, and it was a transformative years for Sherman College that brought it to its rightful place. And today it sits at its rightful place, and that was amazing. But he brings me in there. I had actually only been to the college when he became the president. They have a ceremony called an investiture, and I was there for that. I supported him as a friend, and lo and behold, the next year, I'm I'm serving as the executive vice president of Sherman College. So that was the beginning of a different era in my life. I understood a little bit more from a 10,000-foot view what was going on within the profession, and I was able to have a greater impact because I took it from the community to the world. And now I was able to travel the world, several continents that we were on. We were in Australia, Europe. We did mission trips. I mean, there were so many ways that we were promoting Sherman College, and I was able to really see what was going on out there. And what was happening is God was developing me. He was sanctifying me as a leader within the profession, and I was growing in my communication skills. I was growing in my decision making. I mean, everything started to happen on such a fast pace and high level that I realized that Ed and I were chosen to do this, and we saw the results. Things were great, and after 10 years, he decided not to renew his contract. He put in his notice. He left the college, and here's the thing. I told him I was going to stay. They asked me if I wanted to stay. I said yes. I said I would, and then within a short time, I'm not with the college anymore. And that's actually a very good thing. I left on a very high note. I left accomplishing a lot, but one of the things about that situation is now I'm free to be the entrepreneur that God made me to be. So now
So
I'm in a
now your
situation.
next step, right? So you were just telling me about that
Yes,
yesterday.
yes.
Let's hear
Well,
about that.
my next step, I just launched, and you'll be seeing it hopefully very very soon. I'm launching a coaching program. It's called Above Down Success Coaching, and it's going to help people develop not only professionally but also personally in their lives. I want them to become master communicators. I want them to understand the philosophy at the highest levels. I want them to have success in life, and I want to do it based on biblical principles, which I think is a unique aspect to where I'm going. I've been very fortunate to be discipled by some very very wise men when it comes to Scripture, and I don't claim to know anything about it, but what I do know is that God has given us the Scripture for so we can accomplish whatever we need to accomplish. It's profitable for learning. It's profitable for correction. It's profitable for everyone to live their lives. And I want to help people understand it's not a religious program, but it's a program that's based on God's truth. And God's truth is all truth. All
Well,
truth
God's
isn't
truth is chiropractic principle, universal intelligence and innate intelligence. I mean, that goes right back to Genesis 1:21. We're creating a likeness and image.
right. And then in John 1, it says, in man is a light, and we that light is God, and we get to display the incredible healing gift that God has given us, and we need to make sure that He gets all the honor, He gets all the praise. You said before, you said, "What is there a disease that God cannot heal?" And of course, the answer is no. It says in Psalm 103:3, not only does He forgive all of our iniquity, but He heals all of our diseases. So that's where healing comes from. When we start to have a man-centered approach to chiropractic, I think that we're trying to shift God off of the throne. We have to have a God-centered approach to chiropractic. Chiropractic was given to us And God doesn't need it to make an adjustment. God can make an adjustment without a chiropractor, but we get this blessing and this honor to articulate this principle that allows people to avoid the secular poisons that man wants to just shove down people's throat. So chiropractic, it's pure, it's unadulterated, it needs to be protected, preserved, and perpetuated for as long as we can do that. And we need more people to do that. We need people like you, Dr. Fred, to keep going, people like me. And that's why I set up this coaching program. It's personal. It's not cookie cutter. It's designed for the individual. We find out what your core values are, where you're coming from, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, where your challenges are, and we work within those parameters to ensure that you have a strong marriage, that you're a great parent, that you're an excellent adjuster, a good chiropractor that understands cash flow, understands financial health. You want to maybe create generational wealth. This is what it's all about. It's all about using chiropractic as your life purpose, your life passion, and using your gifts within that.
Yeah. So, we talked about this when I was on the phone with you yesterday, talking about today. There's only one problem in the world, and that's an above, down, inside out faith and above, down, inside out healthcare. And so right now, that's it, man. So like when you look at your above, down coaching, and that's, we teach the same thing, right? Chiropractic principle and faith in God, because they really are the same thing. So to be a convicted, and this, people with big purpose-driven practices and are making a difference in their community or wherever, they're very spiritual people. You know what I mean? The people that have big practices that are, they're very spiritually based. At least the ones that I know. Now, I'm sure that, there's everybody. You could think of people that, yeah, they have a big practice, but they rip people off. I don't know. I mean, that's not everybody, obviously. But chiropractic principle is a spiritually based principle. You have to be steeped in the principle. And then, if you take those universal principles, if you take the laws of God into every area of your life, that's how God shows his presence in every area of his life. So if you take that principle as a model in every area of your life, every area of your life is going to flourish.
Yeah, you get the blessings of obedience is what it comes down to. And
Yeah.
God has tremendous blessings for us, but we have to understand that, the message of scripture is about reliance, and it's reliance on him, not ourselves. We tend to be very much thinking that we have the power, we have the technique, we have the knowledge. It's all, God is the first cause of all things. He's the source, the means, and the end. And until we completely understand that, or until we at least open our hearts to see that, God is the maker of all things, the creator of all things, and we're the creature. And it's not a negative to be the creature. We are the creature, and we're distinctly different from who he is. But at the end of the day, when we can understand his teaching, his doctrine, then we could be conformed and transformed and renew our minds to something that is more pleasing to him. And we don't get caught up in the things of this world. I've known a lot of people, you talk about successful people. I've known a lot of successful people that were miserable. And they were miserable not because they didn't have money. They were miserable because they didn't have anything other than their money. And what we have to realize is, money's just a tool. It's a wonderful tool, but the thing that we have to give honor and glory to is the one who articulated us in his mind in eternity past. And
Absolutely.
it is just a beautiful thing to understand that we have this wonderful we have this offer for an incredible relationship with him.
Yeah, amazing. So just to wrap this up, thank you for sharing your heart with us. How do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can call me on my cell phone, 561-302-3357. I have a website now, above down successcoaching.com. They could find my phone number right there. So I would suggest doing that, above down successcoaching.com, or above down successcoaching at gmail.com if you want to send me an email. But yeah, we may be a good fit, we may not be a good fit. I'm all about just helping people. And listen, I think the greatest technique that we have in chiropractic is love. And I want to just love on people. I want to encourage people. I want to inspire people. I'm not. I don't want to be the biggest, but I want to have an impact in the lives of people because it's about legacy, and I want to be able to leave a legacy that I can be proud of. Listen, I
Awesome.
had a GTO. I got a convertible Cutlass. I got a 65 star. I got all that stuff. I got a nice pool home in Florida. But you know what? None of that means anything. What means something is family. What means something is what people think about you after your life is over and what you were able to contribute to them to make them feel better and make them be
Awesome.
better people. So that's what I want to do.
Cool, man. Well, you guys got it. Get a hold of Dr. Neil. We'll be keep your eye on for this podcast. Go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. And keep your eyes out for all the opportunities that are coming to live, not only live more principle life, but get the chiropractic principle out there. So, all right, we love you guys. Thank you, Neil. Love and appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, brother. Love you too, Dr. Fred. Have a great day. Thanks for this.
Yep, peace.